And we're back.
Back. All this noise. Welcome back to the podcast, us.
Oh, thanks, Valerie. You got to state my name so people know,
Sorry, I just said us. I figured that would cover it. Chad and Val.
Yeah,
welcome
Chad
back.
and Val, welcome back. This was a great episode. We recorded here at Icon Collective with Glenjamn, a.k.a. Glenjamn.
Yes.
A figure that I have a very close fondness for in terms of his work. But also
100%.
just like a homie, just
Yeah.
straight up homie.
If you don't know who Glen is, I would highly recommend looking him up on Instagram. He is an amazing photographer, videographer, content capturer of many sorts. But he's kind of a guy that's been through eras of dance music, specifically Bloghouse, which we spent a ton of the episode kind of walking down memory lane with him and hearing some of his really amazing stories of his journey and how he came up. But I think it's really amazing. Like, now we get to look back on an era of music and actually talk to someone who really was like the historian of the time.
Yes.
And he's obviously got amazing stories and advice and insight. So
Yeah, we love talking to people on this show who actively help shape the culture.
Yeah.
And Glen, he was the eyes and ears, the every man's view into what it was like to be on tour with Justice, to be on stage at Hard Summer, and
to have dinner with Daft Punk.
That is also another little insider story that we heard on this episode. We hope you like it.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorites so far, and glad we had a chance to welcome Glen in.
Yeah, enjoy.
Enjoy. I've only lived in LA County my whole life.
Yeah, me too.
God, you both. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, it's because I'm like tethered to my family who all live in like Glendale, Arcadia, Pasadena area.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's sort of cool that like luckily when they emigrated to America, they chose like LA. And I'm like psyched. And then I don't think I would ever leave LA because like,
Well, apparently not.
I'm never gonna leave LA. Like I'll travel a grip, but I'll like always love the feeling of flying back to LAX, like seeing like the ocean near like Marina Del Rey landing and shit. Cause I'm just like, this is my home. Like I love New York. I love Paris.
Yeah.
I love like Miami. I love Japan. Like, I love all those places a lot. While I'm there, like if I were to stay there for like 3 months, I would love it, but there's no feeling of like coming back home where like my weed is here, like like everything is just like chilling. Like
the second thing you mentioned.
I always clean, yeah.
So I want to know, before we move on to other more relevant
We don't want to talk
things.
about LA for like.
No, I do. I want to hear Glen's top Koreatown recommendation.
Oh,
I feel like you're like
that's
a
like-
perfect person to ask.
That's trippy though, because everyone always asks me, what's your favorite Korean place? I can only give you like my favorite like fancy place to meet people, like, or a Korean barbecue place where you meet people, because like any other time I want Korean food, I just go home.
I was gonna say, I guess you
it's
just
just
go to
like
your mom's.
it's always like like sometimes I don't want to eat Korean barbecue because like I'll go to a Korean barbecue at home in Glendale
Fair.
and eat so much Korean barbecue and like take home like 4 slices of
That
like
is so,
short rib.
That's honestly the most
and
genuine
rice and-
answer.
That was one of the
kimchi
best
and
answers.
everything.
We could
So
have
it's
had.
just like I wish I had like
You're like my mom's house. That's
yeah.
the best recommendation.
like classic Korean barbecue places like Jeep or what is the other one? It's the one that has like Agashi Gopchang. It's all the ones in Quarters where that stuff is.
Yep.
Yeah.
But those are like where all my non-Korean friends want to link, but I'll take them to like a good one,
Yeah.
But in terms of like there's one like sort of hood kind of Korean place called like Digolmok,
Okay.
DGM. You ever go there?
It's
It's like Digolmok means like back alley. So it's like design. It looks like it's all
Love it
scribbled
already.
in like Korean graffiti. Like
Oh wait, I think yes, I have been there.
it's in
like really
K-Town.
dark.
Yeah, it's really
Super dark.
And
It's
just
late
like
night
little
place.
like wooden booths.
Yes, I've
and, like,
definitely been there.
just like concentric staircase.
They have little wooden
booths.
menus.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, it's a wooden menu and it's all in Korean. I wasn't raised in K-Town. I went to church every week though, where like I have to say I met all my like K-Town hood rat friends at church.
Yep.
And they took me
I
around.
love that.
Like I used to go when I was like 6. I had a fake ID when I was 16, and go out to like Players and Renaissance like billiards clubs where like, bro, I'm 16. I look like a fetus, and I'm just like drinking shots of Crown Royal with my like stupid Jinko pants and like shaved, like shaved up and like spiked hair. To like, bro, we lived Fast and the Furious before Fast and
Oh
the
my
Furious.
God.
That's true. That's a good
amazing.
place to start with
The
Glen.
best
Welcome.
place.
Thank you.
I can't wait.
Wait, so I'm interested now that we're here on the topic.
Yeah.
16 years old.
Right.
Spike
So
hair.
what was your entry into the music world?
I mean, I listened to music, but I was mostly like around in high school. I was like an emo kid, more like power pop punk. Like I really liked Weezer and Jimmy Eat World and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like I would drive to the Glass House and see a lot of like indie bands like Rilo Kiley and Postal Service and stuff like that back in the day,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
But I never had like a vibe for dance music or anything like that, you know? Like I can honestly say like my entry point into that world where like we're all like in now, Daft Punk 2006 Coachella. That's it. Like literally I didn't care about dance music. I didn't know about like DJs. I never went to clubs. Like I really didn't really go to clubs. If I went out, I went to like a concert, wore my like
Or band.
yeah, and like saw a band and then, got drunk with my Armenian friends in Glendale that weren't like tapped into the culture like that.
Yeah.
And I was like pretty living in Glendale though, it's like you just stay in Glendale kind of,
Yeah.
and I didn't really drive a lot, so I wasn't like, I wasn't like trying to go out. Like I was honestly like a huge nerd. I was like, I don't want to like ruin my GPA. Like I don't want to do all this stuff. Like one time my friends in high school came over to my apartment and they were like, "Oh, your mom's gone. Can we come over and like smoke weed?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." Like I was like, "Absolutely not." Like no way. And I'm like now totally not like that, But
Now
it
it's
was
the
like
second thing on your reasons why you can't move.
yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, so that's so interesting. For me, Daft Punk was the entry point too. The '06 Coachella.
Yeah.
Watching it on grainy YouTube and then seeing them in '07. So Glenn and I, in that regard, like I'm in the same thing where it's like I was into indie bands
Yeah.
and I was into underground hip hop, like MF Doom and stuff.
That too. Like
Yeah.
Rock the Bells kind of stuff.
Rock the Bells
I was
kinda
like
stuff.
all in the backpack hip hop world.
Yeah.
It was just that like for me at the time, it was like you're Asian, you're like, do I fit in this weird dance world, But
At the
that was the
time, it wasn't really an Asian culture
No.
thing. I've never asked you, Glenn, about that.
Right.
It really was the French, right? That opened up the
Yeah,
gateway.
I
And
mean-
you were a fan.
Yeah, I mean, I approached that as like, bro, I was there and I saw Daft Punk, and then I made like a conscious decision to just go to these like clubs that I read about in Vice magazine, and because like Vice Records and Steve's stuff was all like
That was a
Cinespace,
huge thing.
was like a whole thing with like the whole Block Party release and all that stuff they did. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go there. But I would just pull up by myself, just like wait in line, like, and I have to, in like full honesty, it was like, like in Vice, it's like when you're just so impressionable during that era, you're like, I want to be a do and not a don't. Like you try to wear something that fits into the era, bruh. I wore
We're
like a
doing it.
fedora for like 3 years straight.
No.
It was on my business card to look up my photos in my first batch of business cards I ever made. And
You're
I
trying
was
to make
like,
the fedora.
I was just
thing?
like, oh, no, but I was like, this era though, it was like the Cobra Snake looks like this. Like Steve looks like this. And I felt like everyone just had to look like sort of the same every time they went out.
Yep.
And I had to like,
Yeah,
that was like,
your
oh, you'll
uniform.
recognize me with the camera and this fedora and glasses.
Well, no, I can
That's
agree.
amazing.
I can attest to that because when I was young, when I was just breaking in, I saw like Frankie Chan doing I Heart Comic stuff, and he had a look.
Yeah.
And then all the people he hung out with had their looks, like
Yeah.
Cobra Snake.
I mean,
and
all
Steve.
terrible looks now.
Terrible looks.
But we were like very dedicated
Yeah.
to this terrible look.
I thought they were so cool. I
Yeah.
mean, they were.
Yeah,
you
they
know,
were cool at the
we were
time.
very, we
yeah.
thought- yeah, we're
I just wanted to be like, I wanted to have my group with our looks.
no,
you
totally.
know?
Yes.
Totally. I just wanted to like fit in because I was like an outlier. Like I grew up in Glendale, didn't have any club background. All these guys that like went to like Cinespace or went to these parties like knew each other kind of. Like a lot of kids were like OC transplants that like ended up doing it big here and stuff like that. I was just like, hey, if I go there by myself, I'm not gonna like have my friends that I grew up with like being like, yo, this shit's boring. I want to leave. And like that's off the table now. Like I didn't want to like have anyone rely on me for like how much fun they were having that night. I was like, I'm just gonna go by myself, and I just like met people each night. Like the first night I went to Cinespace, I met Hassan Rahim and I met my friend Switch, who were like my friends still like forever, and it was just like those were my guys, you know. And then the next week I would meet like Dano and them jeans, and then like every week I would just be like dedicated to go every week just to go because I'm like, how will I get in? Because like I'm also the guy that's like always buying tickets, like never on a guest list. Like I don't know really what cool is.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
trying to
and
like
guest list
pretend like I'm cool in a cool environment.
Guest list wasn't what it is now. Like back then, it was like you had to earn that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there wasn't this pseudo industry class, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I went to Cinespace was in my freshman year of college. I went 2000. Early 2008, late 2007. I remember I showed up, I had like True Religion jeans on and like a zip up jacket. And the guy looked at me and was like, bro, are you serious? I was like, what? He's like, you ain't never been here before, huh? Bro, you gotta tighten it up. Like, I was like, okay. He's like, just get in there. He's like, what's that, white t-shirt under there? Like, zip that up, get in.
Oh my God.
So I walked in. The first person I saw, Mystery, the pickup artist.
Oh!
It was a Tuesday. It was Democ Tuesdays. But
Go peacocking. Fool.
dude, that was my first exposure to the culture in that context that Glen's talking about, where it was like every single person you're meeting here is going to affect what's going to be on the radio, you know, kind of indirectly in a year.
Yeah, it was like when I went there, I was like trying to see the people I saw or heard about online in person. You know, that's what basically going to a Cinespace or LAX was like. Oh man, I really want to see like Busy P, and I met him there. I really want to see Justice, and I saw him there. I saw Mastercraft there, you know, and it was
did you go to the Tomas Bangalter night when he played at Cinespace?
Homie, I filmed that video. That's
right.
on YouTube. Bro.
That's right.
Well, I was gonna say,
there
when
you
you
go.
were going to these things, were you already bringing your camera?
Yeah, because I was like, so honestly, the story with like shooting and all that stuff is
Yeah, where does your photography story start?
like I took like maybe like one photography class in high school. Other than that, I really didn't care. Okay, like I didn't care. But one day when I like graduated college, I went like backpacking in Europe. I was like, oh, I should buy like a little like Canon ELPH digital camera and just take photos of my trip, you know? And then like something happened where it, like deleted everything on YouTube, and I was like, all right, I'll just try it again. But when I went to Daft Punk at Coachella, like I was at Coachella, I was like, I bought like extra batteries because like I'm at Coachella, I should really record some shit. And everything I tried to record was just the Daft Punk stuff. And then from that point on, I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not a guy that typically goes to any of this stuff. So nobody's going to believe me when I say, like, this happened or this happened. So being like the Korean nerd that I was just like, I need to bring a camera to have evidence to support my claims. Like, it wasn't about, like...
That's the nerdiest reason ever.
Yo, but day after day, I'm like, yo, every week some cool shit keeps happening and I need to keep filming it. And I was like, just all about it. And then after a certain point, I'm like, this is my job. Like, and I'm like, I'm not getting paid. But I recognized at the time how cool it was, how important it was. And I felt like it was gonna be historically significant. So I was extremely dedicated to just showing up with a camera. But mind you, I had a real day job at the time. I worked at Disney for like 4 years, okay?
Okay.
So when I started going to Cinespace and all that, I had a day job at Disney Online helping build websites for like the Jonas Brothers campaign, the Hannah Montana campaign, the Hannah Montana 2 Meet Miley Cyrus campaign, Mitchell Musso and Corbin Blue web pages, like just
Deep in the
utter
Disney
like
universe.
Corbin Blue webpage. Fire.
But that really like that was my day job. They paid me well.
Yep.
Like the office was chill. I got a free Disneyland pass. It was like a good job.
Yeah.
But at night I was like, yo, I need to do something else to like purge myself of like this fake music vibe. And I was like using these clubs as my outlet to be like, can I scrub this whole like
Hannah
High School
Montana.
Musical day out of my head and then like smoke a joint and listen to like Justice with all these like wild kids. And I was like, it was like a cleansing every kind of day I went to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's super interesting. For those who don't know, Glen is considered by many as kind of the eyes and ears of the scene through that lens. I mean, for me personally, I will say from the very beginning, I was watching your videos before I even knew you. And I remember one in particular is when you, because, Switch was your homie. It was Major Lazer, Coachella, 2010. One of the wildest sets in Coachella history. It was in the Mojave tent. Scarrett Boy had the ladder, classic Major Lazer material. But you were standing about 15 feet in front of me, getting a perfect center view on your camera. And there's this one point where you turned around and did a full 360 shot, and I was right behind you like this. And I just kept always showing people I'm in this video. But it's like you're saying,
but
I had to show people I was there.
No, you know what's crazy though is I tried to develop my own POV style of going to a concert because I just wanted people to feel like you're in my shoes. So if I dap up someone, and you see a hand with I'm dapping up Justice, it feels like a kid knows Justice or they feel like it. And I was trying to be the huge yo, I don't know any of these motherfuckers, but I'm really pushing it when I'm trying to DIY it. I'm trying to fake it till you make it where you're I'm not with a magazine. I'm not this, but I'm always trying to get on stage for some reason. And it was just but I think the people that I hang out with now, Busy P, who I looked up to, but he's my senpai kind of vibe because he always gave me a lot of advice growing up. But we met in a club, and he just kept letting me hang out. He put me on lists. He let me be a press for them. And it was all based on he had no idea what I was really doing, but he was he's harmless. He's he's not tripping on the chords on stage. He's not drunk acting all a fool.
Yeah.
And I was always conscious, trying to be that guy. I was yo, I'm always gonna be that guy that says hello to the security. I'm always gonna say be nice because I don't want anyone to think of me as that thirsty guy that just wants footage and will go out just not do the right things to get there,
Yeah.
I'm very big about being respect, Korean, respect is huge,
Yeah.
if they pulled that on me, I would get so angry. So I'm I'm gonna do it to prevent that ever. And there's many security guards or stage hands or stage production managers from festivals, and the common story is yo, remember that time I kicked you off stage and choked you out? And I'm whatever. I'm yes, I do. And now we're best friends, and it's because they didn't know what was up. Then they realized that every time I came back, even though I got kicked off,
you built that trust.
You
You paid your dues, built that trust.
I mean, my style is very different though. I will fucking stick my camera in your face.
Yeah.
While there's 20,000 people in front of you, but it's all based on trust though. I'll do that with Diplo because I met him 5 years prior to that, and he understands what I'm doing. I'm not trying to, but that's also why I don't really shoot as much anymore because it's a whole different generation. Everyone has their own videographer,
right?
Everyone has their own crew.
I mean, I was gonna say a big part of people getting into what you do, I think that a lot of people don't understand from the beginning is a lot of it is just being a cool guy that people don't mind having around. Like you said,
that's what
being
I wanted
respectful.
to be. From a guy growing up that was never cool in high school or never cool back then, and I was always yo, when am I gonna go do this Saved by the Bell Saturday night with friends? And it's or that Can't Hardly Wait party or something like that.
Yeah.
It never existed. So I really actively tried to put myself out there after college and after my job to be you know what? I just got to find those friends, And then I found them, and then I developed my own confidence coming from a background where I have no expertise in any of this. When people are playing songs and they leave a comment on my YouTube video, I'm I don't know. I have no idea what you're playing. I don't know the track names. I don't know anything. And I just liked being there.
And you have the good intent, I think. You really just wanted to document.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to show this side of an authentic, none of my videos are edited. Mm-hmm. They're 7 or 5 minute chunks and I always wanted to show you how it really was. There's no tricks. There's no cool EDC fades and wipes of someone beautiful spiraling and dancing or whatever. I'm yo, you see that kid having the best time of his life right now?
Sweating.
It's real. It's real.
Yeah.
fucking this guy like at
It
Daft
was
Punk,
Chad.
you know, like Chad like being like, oh my god, Daft Punk. It's because like I was really trying to grab those moments, and then like after a while when I was starting to shoot on stage a lot, I would actively zoom in on like my favorite fans in the crowd because I wanted them to have this moment as well.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I'm not really hired to just shoot. I'm just hired to do whatever, kind of, you know? And I'm just like, I'm going to do whatever I want. And, you know, you may not like it right now, but like later on, that like moment is going to be like a Chad moment where like he keeps showing his friends and like, and that to me is way cooler because it connects everyone to the real like moment.
Yeah,
you know?
and I have to say, like, your Hard Summer videos, I think, for me, are really iconic. Especially because, like, in 2013, and I know you have a relationship with Gary and stuff, but, like, that's when it started to really get big. Like, when they went to LA Historic Park, I think it was becoming the most important cultural electronic music brand in America for a certain period. And I remember the videos you had on stage were so, like, wow, I'm getting, like, access to what it's like to walk up on stage with R.L. Grime, who at the time was like this, you know, meteoric guy. But then when we played Hard Summer Brownies Lemonade in 2018, you did videos for us too. And for me, I gotta say, just a bit of a fanboy, I was like, this is like, at least I'll always have the Glen video that I can document this moment more than just like the super crazy recap.
Yeah.
It was just like, I can remember the day now, what it was walking up backstage and the conversation and all that.
I mean, thank you for saying stuff like that because, like, honestly, like, that was my intent long time ago because I always want to be like the second shooter. Like I don't want to be like the guy that the brands want this certain like beauty shot or whatever. I'm like, bro, I want like I grew up on like Hunter S. Thompson, like Gonzo journalism, like shaky cam stuff.
Yeah.
Like to be honest, my major stylistic choice to like shoot this stuff was always the first scene in Saving Private Ryan where they're like in the trenches during war. And I'm like, you're going to like war with me in the crowd to get to this DJ every night, you know? Because it's like shaky, there's blood on the camera, like whatever. And I'm like, that was my take because I was like, because that whole era was very like, dance music was very punk. You know, it was just like, you could have a mosh pit to like crunchy synth sounds that you never had before. So I'm like, I want to capture the visceralness of it.
Yeah.
Because, like, now everyone wants, like, the beautiful shit, you know?
Yeah.
I don't ever want that, you know? But there are beautiful moments in those dirty, like, times.
Well, also, I think a lot of things have to be inoffensive. And I feel like the main part of why dance music got so big was it was extremely offensive at first. Like, there was well, I mean, like Justice comes out with just like a cross, you know? It's like, that's like a pretty big statement to make where you're like, we're going to make the cross our iconography, you know? For me, though, coming off of the heels of Alive 2007, that was my entry point. I became obsessed with Justice. A lot of people did that summer as like the second, the second step.
It was the
right?
second coming of, it was like the next generation. And then it had the genealogy of like Pedro Winter, or old manager of Daft Punk.
Right.
Will now manage Justice.
French duo.
Well,
also, the other thing was that they launched their tour pretty much like they started doing LA dates like right after with the Ed Banger guys. So after the Sports Arena show, I remember I went to LA Detour Festival, saw Justice for the first time. That was when I was actually involved in a crowd crush for the first time, which
scary.
it's still to this day I always forget. Like that was like the intensity of like the people were so excited to see them. I ended up seeing them 6 times that year in California.
Damn right, baby.
So
playing next year too.
I know they're back.
About to go back
after 5-year hiatus.
But I know that you were there for a lot of those. The Music Box, the Mayan, I went to Street Scene in San Diego.
I went to Street Scene too.
Treasure Island in San Francisco. So I'm just curious what that was for you as well, being there for that, because I think that was the biggest.
Okay, I'll tell you like my French entry point.
Yeah.
It all started like, you know, I was like, after I saw Daft Punk, then I went to Coachella, saw them at like in 2007 before, you know, because the Daft Punk show wasn't until like July or something. So I got like that fixed, but then they played it like on the rocks, upstairs, like Medi, rest in peace. Like Pedro and Justice just played this like show in 2007. But then like they would then start showing up at like Cinespace, you know, and then they would just start showing up at LAX in those months leading up to the Daft Punk show.
Yeah.
So I'm just like trying to get like as close to the like the vibe. Mind you, I don't know them yet or anything. You know, I'm just like trying to get in. And then one day, like, but I was really getting my first like person that really put me on was DJ Mike B.
Yep.
And he was throwing that
legend.
party with Banana Split with DJ AM and Steve Aoki.
Mhm.
So he got me into like he helped me become friends also with DJ AM, rest in peace, who was like the prototypical superstar DJ in LA. You know, like he helped create and craft that like people are coming to see you DJ now.
Yep.
And that was mixing in perfectly with the time that like DJs were from France were like commanding their presence. Like a Boys Noise was emerging. Like these people, you were going to see DJs now. We
Yeah.
didn't even have visuals yet, really. You know, like
Yeah.
you're just
Yeah.
going to see these guys. And like in LA, I'm just like, what is this? We never had like, mind you, we didn't grow up with that whole like New York club culture where you go and like stay out for like till 4 a.m. Like if you went to a club and saw a DJ, it was like bottle service,
Yeah.
some like Hollywood shit, you know? So,
Yeah, AM kind of bridged the gap. He was the reason why I got into DJing. But the interesting thing about him is that, you know, like like you're saying, he started to become like, you would go to see a DJ for their skill of mixing top 40 songs with other things that you didn't know. And then when the French came in, it was really interesting in that way, because it was the first time you'd see people where you're like, wait, they produced this song that
Yeah.
they're DJing. And I think that was the big like aha
that was
moment.
yeah, that was a huge thing because like DJs just played other people's music, and
Yeah.
then you see like the guys that created it, and you're like they're French, so
Right.
for us it's like an exotic thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you see them play their own music and freak their own music, and
Right.
you're just like, what the
Yeah.
at that moment.
Yeah.
So it was just a combination of all that energy that got me in. But anyways, so
Yeah, you're following the Justice Crew.
it led me to like basically like so one night AM went to the Shortstop in Echo Park, like a Dodger bar, right?
Yep. Still
'Cause
there.
Our friends Cosmic Dan and Ron, who made a DJ duo called the Cosmic Kids.
Yep.
It was our first show that night. So AM went to support, but also Kavinsky and Sebastian came, right? And
Cosmic Dan, by the way, one of my DJ mentors. He DJ'd on All Vinyl.
yeah.
So
He's amazing.
shut him. Anyway, so continue. So you're at the Shortstop.
So I'm at the
Cosmic Kids.
Shortstop watching them. Then I see Kavinsky. Because he was there because they were doing the tour for Daft Punk. Like Sebastian and Kavinsky and Ratatat opened for the Daft Punk tour.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's an off
Crazy
night.
overdose.
So an off night, I see Kavinsky and I just like, I'm a fan of Kavinsky by then, you know? And I'm like, I pull up to him and I'm like, yo, Kavinsky, like, I fuck with your shit. I have this huge bag of weed. Maybe we should smoke it all tonight.
Yeah.
It leads
Just
to
like
like
that.
hanging out with them at the bar. Then he's like, oh, we're going back to the crib, and they were like, oh, sick. And it was like in Silver Lake, it was like Olivier Gondry's brother's house, or no, Michel Gondry's brother, Olivier Gondry.
Yeah.
He had a house. Olivier Gondry directed the Around the World live video for Daft Punk, that tour video of like all the handheld cams. Anyways, they're like, we're staying here, so come with us. They pile into my Honda Civic,
Oh, you drove.
and I drove them to the house, and I still had Disney to go to in the morning,
Oh
right?
shit. Oh,
So I'm
my
just
God.
like, yo, like, bro, like, it's my pleasure. Like, let's smoke this shit. And I'm there till like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. They're like, do you want to come meet us tomorrow? I'm like, bro, I got work. Like, I can't hang out with you. I would love to so much, you know, but I can't. And that led to like, he was like, oh, we'll be back in a couple months for Detour Fest. So like, let me know your email and then you can just like roll with us. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I never was on a list. I didn't know anything. So like, I pull up to Detour by myself. And then I'm like, I go up and I'm like trying to get like Kavinsky's attention. Like, mind you, this is like the heyday of like the French shit, right?
Yeah. They all did a massive back-to-back on
Yeah.
this one stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like, Kavinsky sees me, gets a security guard. He goes, that fool's with us. And from that point on, I'm just on stage with on the Detour Fest with like, honestly, like any footage I have from that night is like terrible because that camera was terrible, you know. And but it's just me and Cobra Snake and on the stage like with like Medi, Pedro, Justice just DJing on that huge stage.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm
It was
just,
like super elevated.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm just like smoking like a
there.
pipe in the corner. Yeah, so that started it, and then it led to like a relationship where Kavinsky literally introduced me to like all the guys in Ed Banger. Then like Pedro introduced me to everyone once I met him at LAX one day.
Okay.
And then every time I came to France, like they would be like pull up, and then they'd introduce me like another guy and then another guy, and then that's how I like linked him like Brodinski later, who was like sort of like my kindred spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why like I tagged along for all those like bromance things.
Right.
Like I became a videographer and photographer for them because like I was always the guy that like picked him up from the airport, drove him around, took
the
him to
Honda Civic.
restaurants, you know, like in the
Love
Honda
it.
Civic for sure.
Yeah.
Like
Civic Gang. I got one. So, you know.
yeah.
I did not know that Kavinsky was your entry into the whole French circle.
Yeah. Yo, Kavinsky later on, you know, years later, he's like, come to the Chateau Marmont. I have a place for the week. So like, I pull up, and then he's like, let's have dinner after with our friends, bro. I am at that dinner sitting next to Thomas Bangalter all night, like next to him, because like Kavinsky and Thomas and Guzman, they're just all homies from way back, and now I'm like Kavinsky's homie, and I was like, bro, like, shut the up and don't talk about music. That's all I did that day. I was like,
What'd you guys
I'm
talk
not gonna
about?
be that guy. Oh, I found out Thomas' favorite movie that year was what is it, like Zero Dark 30?
Oh,
Yeah.
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 So that was like 2009,
Yeah. Is that
2010.
was that the Catherine Bigelow movie?
Yeah, the one the best
Or
one.
no, Hurt Locker.
Hurt
no,
Locker?
it was one of those two.
Her
like a
Locker
really-
won Best Picture, right?
Yeah.
And then Zero Dark 30 was a few years later. But it
Yeah.
is both Catherine Bigelow movies, yeah.
But it was like, we talked about that.
I
Like,
don't know
I'm
who
not
he
gonna
is.
See,
Yeah.
that is
That
a
guy.
smart move.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
not the
talk about
fanboy.
music. Don't fanboy like I just did about Glen's videos.
Did you ever like deal with like imposter syndrome of like, why am I here?
Oh, every day,
How do I keep doing
constantly
this?
still.
Yeah.
like-
how do you deal with it?
Honestly, okay, this is how I deal with it. I had that in the very beginning, right? But then after a while, I was like, bro, you can't hate on me when I pull up to shoot shit for free and post videos online the next day, and I didn't ask you for anything. So it was like, after a while, I developed my own confidence. Like, bro, like, I ain't doing anything except like contributing to the culture.
Yeah.
So after a while, I like gained my own confidence, and if like a festival's like, you got to shoot this way, I was like, no. Like, I was like, no.
Yeah.
Because like I feel confident as to like how I should be, but I've been like I said, kicked off stage so many times. I've like been told you ain't shit, like by people, and I would just like keep like trudging through and upload it online and then get like a bunch of hits. But I knew like it was just part of the process, you know, like
Yeah.
But I deal with it every day. Like I never think like I never be like, you know who I am. I'm never this. I'm never like that because I'm like, when I really think about it, I'm only here because like they want to see the other people. I'm just like the photographer, dog. Like I ain't nobody, and like don't act like I'm the best at this shit. You know, like.
But you're like the everyman's photographer, you know, like in that way where like people don't have access to especially now, people have very little access
Yeah.
to these festivals. And the only way they'll have access is either through social media or the way that the festival wants to be presented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you serve this perfect middle between the consumer and kind of the reality of like what going to something like this is. It's an underground party if it's main stage at one of these festivals, you know?
I feel like I have a good sense of like what corny is, and
Yeah.
then like after a point, I thought like, yo, I think the shit that I'm doing is kind of corny because it's like everyone's shooting now.
Yeah.
But like I love shooting when like I was the only guy with video, capturing like something that will be in my mind historically important, and I'm the only one that has it. So I was like really shooting. But then like after a while, I'm like, bro, why would you want like BTS footage from me when like Diplo can shoot it on his phone now, and it's even more BTS. Like all the artists can now shoot their own BTS.
Well,
content.
because it wasn't direct to consumer back then.
No, I
Like,
know.
They didn't, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So you
so
were,
I was like in a good
Yeah.
spot.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I built it, and I like went in, uploaded like every fucking day.
Yeah.
But I knew that like there was a finite end to that, you know? Because like also I was like, I don't want to bring my video camera everywhere. So like, but then also I saw the energy kind of shift when like it got super EDM Vegas, like EDC is like the aesthetic. And I'm not hating on EDC. It's just that like it's not my aesthetic. I'm all about like French dudes that like don't talk on the mic, you know, like just DJ for like 6 hours.
Just lighting the new cigarette with the old one.
Yeah.
You know? Like the
Yep.
Sebastian
Shout out
stuff.
Gesaffelstein, the king of that, you know? But I was always like, I want to be like absorbing the scene. Like I want to just enjoy the backstage with them. I want to see the show with them, but I'm not like, I need this shot. Like I'm not like that guy, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm very confident though that throughout the night, I will get the shot,
Yeah.
you know? But I'm not like, if it's a shot list, bro, that shit's stressful.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if you just leave me alone, I will get you like this photo of Notch and Skrillex or something, you know? Or like, I will get you this photo of like Gary with like 7 of his like DJs on the bill that he'll only like do it. And I'm like, I will tap his back while he's DJing in front of everyone, but he will turn around for me based on like this trust relationship thing. Cause that's my main thing was like, photos are cool, but the subject of all my photos and stuff now are like people that I fuck with. Like I shoot film now for the last like 5 years. I only shoot film. Film's expensive. Like now I only waste that film on what is truly, truly interesting to me. Because the deliverables of a festival now are like, give me 500 photos and we'll pick the best 10. You know, I'm like, bro, I only shoot like 120 now, you know?
Yeah.
That's wild.
And I'm like, pick your 50.
So would you say that YouTube has been one of the most important parts of your career, component wise? Like,
For sure, because I mean, pre-DMCA, I used to get money from YouTube.
yeah.
You know, and I was like,
I was curious about that.
and then like there was one day we're like, nah, you ain't getting no money no more, you know? And I was
Is it
like,
because of the music in the videos?
bro, they're playing like 7 different songs
I know.
in each video
I know.
that are
that's
not
tough.
owned by me.
And
or
that's
the
why you have
artist.
like that. You're on Glenjamn 3, right?
Yeah, because I had it shut down.
Yeah.
Glenjamn 1 got shut down when I filmed Prince at Coachella.
Oh.
in
Yeah. Well,
2001.
that sounds
That'll
about
get
right.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'll take that.
What about
bullet.
Glenjamn 2? What was the
Glenjamn 2
takedown?
still up.
Yeah.
But it's
Okay.
like an archive thing because, well, I registered Glenjamn up to like 5 in case they kept going down. But the reason why I did that was like I'm so old school with YouTube. Like I was there like sort of when it began. I was there before like a 3 strikes program. So I was like, oh, if they just like want to take it down, like,
Yeah.
because the Prince thing was like 1 strike and
Yeah.
they just like took it down.
Yeah. They used to do that with those original. It's interesting though. I was gonna map this out because like I think when it comes to music, it's really interesting how we used to get it and share it because it was like P2P torrents, and then after that it was like private links like Mediafire, Zshare through the blogs, right? And then after that it was like SoundCloud was like a big part of it, the downloads, and then now we're into like Spotify and now TikTok. But YouTube has been the through line through all of it. It's like existed.
It has. Well,
Yep.
there was like a conscious thing. Like long time ago, I had a friend that worked they're trying to create a new streaming video site. And they're like, we want your videos on it. And we're like, and we'll try to maybe pay you. And I was like, I tried it for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, bro. And this is why also like I'm on like Google Photos and not like, I never did Flickr. Like I never did all that because I saw like the future and I'm like, you know who's going to have all my shit backed up? Google. Like YouTube owns Google. I'm going to have some storage of that somewhere because this company won't go down.
Yeah.
Like
It's there for
imagine now, bro, I get an email every day like, Image Shack needs your like, it's good. We're going to throw these away. Like if you don't know, like Flickr, like please re-sign into Flickr, like, cause we're going to throw these away, and like, Google's just like,
that is
we
actually
got storage,
we
dog.
got
Like we don't even tripping on you.
that is the interesting part about like the Bloghouse scene, and that it's kind of all gone. Like all those links are gone, expired, and I have a archive of like 10,000, Palms Out Sunday like song downloads from these blogs, and so now it's up to the individual historians, Glen, what he has in his archive, what I have in my personal archive. It's kind of cool, actually, when you think about it, that these are the only ways that these things might exist.
I mean, it was I was such a nerd with that shit back then, though. Like I knew from working at like Disney Online, of like how the internet works in like the behind the scenes of how the internet works, right? Of like how Disney did it is just like it's crazy. So I was like, oh, bro, mine's mad easy handling Disney. So I'm just like, just gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this. Just gotta like plan ahead and like choose the right one. Cause everyone was like, yo, you gotta do Flickr. Like it's the shit. You gotta do this. And I'm like, bro, like I'm a dork, gonna be a dork, I'm gonna stay with Google. Like, because I knew, like, Google's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I
Yeah.
was like, they have the capacity for storage.
Yeah.
Like, that was the only reason why I did that.
I love
Yeah.
that this has turned into a nerd talk about like storage,
No, but you have to realize, but you have to realize
really
though,
talking
so, okay.
which is very important.
So
Yeah.
you guys I haven't really talked about it as much, but I'm working on a documentary, okay,
Oh.
about all my
Yay.
like footage and whatever. But the more I think about it, you have to realize the context of like technology and the you know, things like that, you know. So I can't wait to share it. I mean, it's gonna take a while, okay, but it's based on the footage, but it's also based on like the relationships that I've trusted and like the access that I will give to everyone, but it'll feel like you were part of the crew and we're just reminiscing kind of shit, you know?
Yeah.
But it's because like we smoked weed together, we did all this shit together, and that doesn't come until like investing. Now I'm comfortable to kind of do it because like I invested 15 years of like friendship and relationships, so that like I never like stole money, you know, I never did anything bad.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was always like on the straight, and you know like I wasn't trying to be like shady with like.
Well, there's an
anyone,
etiquette, you know, and like you didn't want it. It's like unspoken, you know, and one of the things is like, and I want to talk about Daft Punk more later, but you remember the recording
Always.
from the booth from front of house, and you're one of the people who had it, and it actually leaked online recently, but now
Wait,
it's like
which one leaked?
the
LA
sports
Arena
arena,
one?
yeah.
Wasn't me though.
And
I
it
can
wasn't
tell
you.
that.
It wasn't you. But it's on YouTube now. And also, but you know, Lollapalooza, like all of this stuff is finally
Yeah,
coming out.
yeah.
And now it's been like kind of far enough away where it's like people are kind of okay with it now
Yeah.
because it's more like preserving the history now. But like it's interesting because it's like this unspoken thing where it's like, you know, like you just got to respect.
Yeah.
You got to respect the privacy.
Yeah, it's a fine line to also walk being like the friend in the crew, but then still being a fan, which I think is
And
actually
being a photographer though.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
it's
and
like,
working and
Because
working
like I could be
alongside
the
them.
biggest snitch. Like I could be the
That's what I
biggest
mean.
whatever.
And there's so many people that have those moments
Yeah.
of like they're with them in the right moment and then they suddenly disappear, they fall off because something like that happens.
Right.
But that's why like being the fan and the person that's in the crew and working with them is a really delicate thing to walk.
Well, I'm really good at like shooting, but I'm also really good at turning off the camera. You know,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
honestly, like, I'm more concerned with like cultivating my personal relationship with music. Like that was like a goal because I was like, I'm a fan, but let me see how close I can get. And if they like now they fuck with me, you know, like, but it was because of like always trying to be like put out like a good impression of myself.
Yeah.
You know, like never be like, yo, like bothering them for anything. You know, like never like doing anything that's like perceived as thirsty. You know, because also like I grew up in LA. Like I seen all that like celebrity culture, and I also know that's like corny or like some things are corny or like I can see when my friends are like, bro, just fucking leave him alone, dog.
Yeah.
You know,
But do you
and
feel
like-
like the thirst has always been there, or is it just more amplified because of what we have at our disposal?
It's definitely more amplified, but thirst has been here since the beginning of time.
We've
Okay,
Thirst
eternally
is a
thirsty
concept.
as a
the first
as a species.
Neanderthal was thirsty as fuck. You know, like
You just know someone in the Neanderthal crew
Yeah,
was being
for
that
sure.
thirsty.
Well,
and
I mean,
all that.
I respect that. You know, the because like I don't want to say our generation, but like it is kind of like it was an etiquette that was very clear.
yeah.
And then I don't know if those same things exist anymore. Like I get asked for like AAA like guest lists, like no
Yeah.
problem,
Bro,
and it's like
okay.
I'm like, yo, you have, like that's like bold.
This
you know?
is the Gen Z or this generation ask, okay? Yo, it's been a while, but I see you're playing at Coachella this year. Like, yo, like, do you want me to just like kick? Can I kick it? Like, can I kick it and like, you know, if you got a pass, you know, just hit me up. Yo, but I hope everything's good. You know, like it's been a while, but like, yo, I'm so proud of you. Like, bro, this is that, okay? It's like, who are you to ask for something in a way where you have to like convince someone that they owe you something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's an entitlement factor, and like this is my like old Asian man coming out, right?
Right.
But it's just that like I worked really hard to not do that, and
Because that didn't
personally-
exist back then.
and
for
personally
you.
I enjoy my time at all the events because I feel welcome there.
Yes.
They want me there because I was never part of that. But if you even do that like once, you just get a reputation. You know, it's just like it's a whack reputation to have because it's like everyone does that. And now you're in the bin of like, everyone does that. Like, yo, you released a new shoe? Bro, let me get that. Like, I need that. Like, fucking give me that shit. You know, like the I need that culture is like not what I grew up on.
Yeah.
And was the whole like the key to longevity with these people is like you gotta have a relationship where you're not asking them for shit all the time.
I know the
Yeah.
first time I got let onto the stage at Avalon, it was way late into my career, and even still, I was like, oh shit, they're gonna bring me up on stage, and then the guy asked me to buy him a drink. Like straight up, you know, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Do you want two?"
Yeah,
You know, because I was like, I
course.
think I got $25 in my checking.
Yeah.
And then, but like now looking at it from the other side, being the person who I'm like, surprisingly, I'm not patting myself on the back. It's like I feel like the BNI we're surprisingly generous with letting people
for
on
sure.
stage.
You
Like
guys
it's
are
definitely
really
changed. Like you almost can't say no
But
a lot of
this
times.
is what I fuck with you guys though, because you guys are like have done your own thing and everyone caught up to it because you're like in the trenches throwing parties that you have to like find out about, but it's also like you have to be invested in your like community to get to like to really be a part of it. And like I feel like people have like a feeling of ownership when they go to a BNL party because they like spend all this time to like figure out the riddle to get there or like whatever. And
they
it's
have to have
something-
an investment beyond just like, yo.
But also, you guys reciprocate it by like always being super generous to your fans.
Yeah.
You know, always like, but also like you do your due work and like fucking get all these like ninja clips of shit that hasn't been released.
Shout
and,
out to
like,
Kush.
I think Kush takes a little bit of a page out of your book. I
bro,
will
shout
say. I
out,
will
bro.
say.
But I think that's-
taking pages, man.
I mean, I keep coming back to the thing of like it's because you guys are also fans. Like you guys
Exactly.
are equally as excited.
But you guys
to
are
be
fans
there.
that treat your artists with respect.
I
And
appreciate
at that
that.
point,
Yeah.
like now you're like friends with Sonny. You know, like you're
yeah.
friends with these guys.
It's just again, it goes back to the etiquette, and then what I think is interesting is like I'm never impressed. I never was shy about saying the do-over, Dimmock Tuesdays versus like this is what got me in. You know, him on every. These are I Heart Comics. These guys got me into what
Sure.
I do. Just make sure you pay homage.
Oh, no,
Now,
for sure.
going forward, I think there's a lot of people who will do Brownies and Lemonade type stuff. Now, I wonder if they're actually going to pay homage in the same way because it's not as cool to pay homage anymore. And that was part of the etiquette is like, you got to just like, you got to pay it forward. Like, be like, yo, man, like, you know, hey, I respect, you know, but I don't know if that handoff is
But the thing
same
is, though, it's
now.
like I'm like I could be like a hater, but I choose not to be a lot of times. And I'm like, I could be like, yo, like, let's see, like, are they gonna be dope or whack? Or I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give them time to prove themselves. You know,
Yeah.
like I pull up to a lot of new kids, like new parties, because I've been like genuinely like, oh man, I really love what they're doing. Like I
Yeah.
love the culture that they're building, and they're doing it DIY, which is like the thing that I really, really support, you know? Like shout out like Favela, shout out Discotheque, shout out like all these like newer little parties that are like all around doing their own thing. But they built their own communities, they built their own stuff, bring their friends, and you see them like actively invest and they're always nice to their crew, like, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
we need people to do the next parties, the next Brownies Lemonade, the
course.
next you know, like I Heart Comics, the next Dimmock Tuesdays. Those kinds of nights are like way fewer and far between.
Yeah.
For the biggest
hard,
music
yeah.
market in arguably the world, we don't have enough of the middle class like we used to. You
That's
know?
what I was saying before when we were talking to someone else is that I just come back to being proud of people who do anything, really.
True.
Like even if it's not for me, if I don't go or if it's not my type of music, but like I see, like you said, them building a community, they're reaching out to their people, then fine. Like I'm happy they're doing it because it's so hard to do things now. Like I feel like kids are so worried about like it's gonna be embarrassing or it's not gonna be cool immediately. Like they probably look at a
Yeah.
Brownies and
they
they're
want
like
they want immediate like
they want to
satisfaction.
be as
Yeah.
big as a
They don't
Brownies
understand
tomorrow.
We grind
They
a lot.
They couldn't throw the
Exactly.
Like,
party.
you know how many times you guys had to like
that party.
try and do a DNB at DNB party until they finally let you do it, you know?
Well, also like I just remember Jose. I always bring this one up is when we were throwing a party at Senor Fish in Little Tokyo,
Yeah.
and like 50 people showed up the entire day, and Slander played for 2 people at happy hour, whether eating tacos. You know, it's like that was embarrassing. Like you have to have
But you
these
have to have
embarrassing
those.
things.
You have to do
Now
it.
I
Sure.
understand
And
that it
survive
wasn't
it.
so visible where you're recording the whole damn thing
Right.
and uploading in real time. I don't know what that's like, but I do know it was still just as embarrassing as I'm sure it is now.
No,
You know,
it's
Right.
totally.
But
so,
you got to do those
but
things.
it's funny that you actually, I want to tie that in because Glenn was talking about his doc. So you're saying that
Yeah.
people are like a little bit more embarrassed. They're very conscious of self-editing.
Yes.
Mhm.
So the interesting thing is that like we would just upload like an entire Olympus camera to Facebook of
Oh
an
yeah,
album.
Facebook
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
albums.
And just like it was very embarrassing. Like
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
maybe that era we were just a little bit more okay with not being perfect in that way, or like
Well, I think you
100%.
also were like in that era where you wanted to get noticed, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like that terrible photo of you during that time is like, yeah, I made it to the Cobra Snake. You know, like,
you got red eyes and you're
yeah,
like,
I was like boogers
We were
hanging
just
out. Like,
excited. I think we were just like excited, right? Like
Yeah.
whether it was the Cobra Snake posting the one
For
photo
sure.
or you posting your 100 from that album, like you were so excited to
I
just
was
be there.
because it was all about like that sense of community that
Yeah.
that blog house thing sort of helped start,
yeah,
because it was like an authentic sense of community based on like the infancy of the internet, where we're not like have many scams just yet, you know?
totally.
Like
Yeah.
we're all like kids, you know, and we're just like learning how
People
to like.
were embraced for being weird.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
is
So that was
biggest part,
that
I
was something
think.
you touched on where you said you were never really cool, and
Still not.
I kind of had that same feeling because like you're saying the pop culture media you're referencing, people like us weren't represented in the movie. If they were the token Asian nerd or whatever.
Like for years, it was Better Luck Tomorrow. That was the movie that all Asians were like looking at. To
We
like,
did have Harold and Kumar. I guess it was one step in the direction, but I think it was funny because it was the same summer as Alive 2007 was Superbad. And when I saw that movie, I was finally kind of like, oh, like nerds are kind of cool.
They're cool.
And then from that point on, I think in the music industry, there was like, we had a little bit more of like, there was just the reason why I chose to go more in music than anywhere else is it was the only place where I didn't feel like I was reminded that I was Asian.
Right,
You
right,
know?
right.
I don't know if you've had the same experience, but in
No,
like
I
I was in acting and it was like you're an Asian nerd,
are the
like
Asian,
you're
yeah.
you're this type, you're this, you're fresh off the boat person.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say when you were talking earlier about how you're oftentimes one of the only Asians in the room, I feel like I went through that when I was working in music journalism, especially in like house and techno, where it's like all
Yes,
British dudes.
For sure.
And I think at first it felt really uncomfortable, where I was like, I'm very much noticing that I am the young Asian female in the room, and that's odd. And then it was pretty quickly I pivoted to actually I think it's like a superpower in a way, because you
Totally.
get a different perspective from people. They talk to you differently than they talk to the other white guy in the room.
Yeah.
So have you experienced that?
No, totally. I mean, since day one, there was at least like a Steve Aoki there, so it wasn't so like weird. But I was genuinely like, this is a very European vibe.
Yeah.
But like, I gravitated towards it. Like, I never spoke French or whatever, but I just liked the vibe. Okay.
Mhm.
After a certain point, you just forget about all that other shit. You know, you're like, I didn't even care about the race stuff. But after putting in the time, I'm very proud to be like a Korean
Yeah.
that did this. And it wasn't like to be a Korean
No.
doing this, you know? And it was
Yeah.
like, but I'm happy that like I, as a Korean, logged in all this time and I have an expertise in a world that is like still not my world, but I have respect from that world. And I think it's just cool to like just think of it afterwards, you know, of like how that happened. But I cognizantly didn't think like about the Asian thing as much until like, you know, years later, we're like, wow, I was like around a lot of crazy shit and I was like the only Asian guy there.
Well, that was like the representation is just by being there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, check this out. 3 Asians on a podcast.
Yeah,
Guess
let's
what?
go.
2023,
Let's go.
we doing it.
That's right.
Exactly.
AAPIHM every day.
That's it.
No,
Mic drop right there.
It's yeah. No, I mean it's so true, dude. I mean, honestly, for me, I've always been very inspired by you.
And the coolest thing is that now we're hearing the first whisperings about you working on this documentary. I
Yeah.
don't know if you are ready to tell us more about that, but I would love to hear more about that.
I mean, I'm one of those guys that like keeps a lot of stuff close to the hip.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because like I think everyone's a snitch. Everyone's like untrustworthy sometimes. Like
We're on a podcast.
on a podcast, so
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, tell me more. Like that kind of stuff, right? All I'm gonna say though is like it's inherently a story that I can tell.
And only you
My
can
footage
Yeah.
through the relationships that I gained, like I got all the access because like we're homies and it's not gonna be weird, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to like
Yeah.
put out this image of like you had to have lived that relationship to tell this story about this relationship.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I remember talking to you back in 2015
yeah,
outside No Filter.
yeah,
And you were telling me kind of early, seeds of this idea,
Yeah.
and it's still taking you a while to, I mean, that was already
because it's
8
like a
years ago.
long phase. Because like, it's my story, so I want to do it right. I'm not just gonna jump on it. But also, there's like a writer's strike and all this other stuff going on. So it's like, it's good to gestate and just talk about it a bit right now.
Yeah.
But I am talking with like really cool like people in Hollywood that are like sort of fucking with it, and I'm like, that's cool because I feel like this time period elicits like if you grew up in that time period, you remember it as like the summer of '69.
Yep.
It was your time when you became Hugh, like when you saw this club atmosphere, like, and now guess what? We live in like distrust of the news, the president. It was just a different time. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, also documentaries now are just like basically it's a tour video, or it's like a recap video. It's a hagiography, like even the biopics, like Bohemian Rhapsody produced by Queen. Like, are you going to trust like the image that is depicted there? Yours is completely unfiltered.
It's just because I want to show that like how to like not do things, like not to be thirsty. How to like, some people are like, how did you shoot Skrillex? Like, how do I shoot Skrillex? And I'm like, bitch, like you find Skrillex when he's like 13 and follow him.
That's the only
you
way.
gotta find the next Skrillex.
Yeah.
The reason why he fucks with me because like we were friends for like 10 years now, and like it's not weird if I pull up to your concert, and like.
Well, I think it's hard because he's one of the many people that people keep using as an example for what they want to do, and it's like there are only like one or maybe two or maybe three of those in your entire life. Like, you got to do your own thing. It's going to come about naturally. You can't be looking for that.
Totally.
It's like it comes. Sonny was going to like shows, like handing out CDs, like, yo, man, I DJ now, but under the name Skrillex.
Sonny told me he used to watch my videos before he started DJing,
Yeah. So I think that.
So I created Skrillex, by the way.
There we go. Put that one on record. Now,
But it's like things like that, though. It's like cool. Then that means you were like a student of the game. Like, because a lot of people, like I seen a lot of people tell me that like they watched a lot of videos. Like K Tronada, like real talk. He told me he used to watch the video because he's younger than us. Mm-hmm. And then like he's like he understands my place. Like he understands this, but without me being like, yo, get out of the way. I'm trying to shoot this shit. He's like, yo, move out of the way. It's Glen. Like, it's Katra. He's doing it for me when he's now killing it.
Well, no, and I think that's such an interesting comparison because Katra had the Boiler Room, which at this point in time in history is iconic. Like, people know people in the background, like they're famous.
Yeah,
like
someone
was like,
girl that like became like a dancer on like a Katra tour, based on a Boiler Room like thing.
Our homie Jacob, he's like, I met the guy in the sweater, dude. I was like, he's LD for Katra now. He's like, I met the dude in the sweater.
That's like the new era of that is like the Fred Again guy.
Right, and that's a spiritual successor. Is like Fred Again Boiler Room.
He has a whole career out of it too now.
Yeah,
dude, it's really cool. I want to make sure while we still have some time, I gotta ask you about Daft Punk.
Yeah. Go ahead.
There we go.
My favorite subject.
10-year anniversary of Random Access Memories.
Yes.
Maybe the Swan Song album for them. We don't know. You were at the recent anniversary, the unveiling of the video.
Yeah. Okay. So that was interesting because I had no idea it was going on, and then like my friend texted me like, "Hey, you heard about this?" And I'm like, "Bro, I don't know anyone at Sony. Like I don't know. Like, are they gonna let me in or whatever?" And then he was just like, he gave me an email. My RSVP said you're not on the list, and he was like, Glen, like, has this ever stopped you before? And I was like, You're right. Like, you are right. And for Daft Punk, I'm driving my ass at 6 p.m. to Culver City, from Silver Lake, like an hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
And like, he was like, yo, just say this one name and like, just say he like added you last minute. I go there, said the name. He was like, okay. And I was like, all right, let's go, and then and then I'm there and it's like the 10-year anniversary. I mean, it was a very like industry kind of event,
of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Like I ran into a couple friends that worked for like, labels or management companies or whatever.
It's a bit different now. Yeah.
But the only person I knew there was like Todd Edwards. So I'm like, I'm going to hang out with Todd, you know? And then like the whole time I'm there and I'm like, oh shit, like Paul Williams is in the corner. Like I almost took a photo of him, but I just like was talking with Todd and shit, and I was like, forget it, you know. But those are people that I met through the journey, and like I met Todd in '09 at like '08 or '09 at Winter Music Conference in Miami, when he was like just starting to get out there and trying to like gain his like fucking confidence again, you know, because he was like living at home and
He was on
stuff
hiatus
before.
for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like afraid to travel when he was growing up. So it's like, you know, we saw him in Miami. It's like, yo, Todd the God, like we gotta be friends, right?
Yeah.
Like you are the voice of face to face. Like,
Right.
and I'm one of those people that's like, I'm a student of that kind of shit. Like, even though I don't know much about music, I know what I really like, and I'll do my homework on that, right? The French stuff was a big thing about dance music that I was trying to learn more about.
Yeah.
Even though I still can't name any of the songs. I see Todd there, face to face. We're talking, but then like through the years, we just keep in contact. And I'm just like, hell yeah, it leads to that night where I'm like, bro, I don't know nobody. Like, let me kick it with you. And we're just like getting drunk, talking about how like we should talk to Paul Williams and stuff like that. But it was just nice because like I was like there, and I have this weird like responsibility online that I feel like I gotta know shit about Daft Punk when I normally don't know anything. Okay, like I don't know when their next tour is. For the like 10 years, you asked me this, you know, like I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
But people would ask me all this shit, like, oh, I got like this alert saying that like this is happening on this. I'm like, bro, I don't know, you know, like I'm not the Daft Punk Discord, you know.
I wish you were.
Yeah.
I'm on it sometimes, but it's like, bro, they don't even know who I am, so I'm like, forget about it, you know.
Yeah.
But
But how many of those people have dined with one of the members of Daft Punk? You know, that's
none of them, dog.
none of them.
None of them.
Definitely not next to them.
So, but what do you think? Like, do you really feel like this is the final chapter of Daft Punk?
Okay, this is the thing with that. It's like until they say it, it's whatever they say. Like they're broken up right now. They're broken up. I ain't gonna like make conjectures about this or
Yeah.
you know, because it's like all you're gonna do is create damage to yourself every year when they don't show up.
Yeah.
Okay, and this has been like years of my friend saying, 2007 or 2017 is alive happening.
That was my
the
number
next
one
thing.
theory, of course.
Oh wait, no, it'll be 2018 because it's actually 10 plus 1 year. Like you know, like, and every year there would be like some
There's
theory,
some new theory. Yeah.
some theory about something. Like the other theory is like my friends at Burning Man, like Daft Punk will play at the trash fence every year.
Oh, that's the every year rumor. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a rumor for that every year, and
Sure.
I think,
That's a meme.
but that's the beauty of creating this persona that like you don't show your faces, you can live your life like on the daily and not be bothered as much, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, they had said in an interview that they didn't want to be robots anymore, obviously, because AI and robots are getting
Right,
such a
right.
bad rap right
Right.
now. You know, and this is not a good era. No, seriously, this is what they said in the press. That It's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
good era to be a robot. They
No.
don't
Not
They
good
wanna be human.
Robot
yeah, they're classic
representation.
robots. You know,
Yeah.
they're like
like analog actual machines.
Not
you know,
chat GPT robots.
Well, I mean, it is interesting because, the last thing I'll say on Daft Punk is like, I think the biggest hurdle is the expectation versus reality fight. Like the expectation, I don't think could ever be surpassed.
Of course not. And I think that's the beauty in it, you know? Like when I really analyze why I fuck with Daft Punk so much, it's like that day that I saw them at Coachella, like Twitter wasn't huge yet. Like it was the last thing you could sort of do without spoiling it. Like
Yeah.
online. You know?
Mhm.
Like I said, everyone's like a snitch and everyone's a spy now, you know? Like
Yeah.
I want to get the photo of like Skrillex's new video setup. I want to get a photo of Zed's new video screen or whatever.
Leak the track list of the
Leak-
album.
Yeah.
Exactly. All that stuff. Like imagine how deflating it would have been if you saw a picture of the pyramid before you saw the pyramid come out.
No, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
and it was the last time where it can like be done because of the limitations of technology, the limitations of thirst, like the limitations of all that at the time. Now there's kids that are like, bro, like these annoying TikTok prankers. You know, they're like built. They're ready to get content, dog.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's different. You know,
They're the new
Yeah.
robots.
they
I
are the
mean,
new robots.
I mean, I know, nothing about Daft Punk compared to both of you, but I think that my controversial opinion is that it's over and we don't want to admit it yet. And I think that they know it too.
I'm fine with it being over though.
And that's what I think it is. I think they're like, I mean, obviously they're so forward thinking as artists in general and just people, I would assume that I feel like they saw the beauty in doing it so well, and then just letting it be forever. Because I feel like even, you're asking about this 10-year event, and just like even before you started talking about it, I was like, I knew it wasn't, it's like probably just like a big label show.
For sure. It was
thing.
totally a label thing, but
Yeah.
I still like the inner '07 kind of came out in me, and I'm like, I gotta at least like sniff it, you know?
Of course,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I was
Worth
at
celebrating.
I was at a Tonight at the Gobi 10 2013, and then the Daft Punk logo came up. There was the world premiere of the trailer with Pharrell. I mean, it was just a trailer, but the way it was dropped, it was so cryptic. It was the first reveal of Pharrell. I mean, it was one of the most amazing moments I've ever had as a music fan. It was a trailer before a set that had nothing to do with him, and it was just like I happened to be standing there.
Yeah.
And
it's sort of like this performance piece that like I just enjoyed so much, and I like absorbed. I was like, now I consider like people that are like always thinking that there's like a theory about something or something's gonna happen, like Daft Anon, and it's just because like they just don't quit, like they like don't quit, they have their own theories, and like it's over. But it's just I'm at peace because like I saw what I needed to see when they wanted to put it out. Like it's on them. Like this is when like you don't want to turn into like a shitty sequel of a movie,
Exactly,
you and who's to say that they aren't maybe coming back later? Like they're like nobody said nothing like, but if they want to do it, I'm down. But also like I met them and they're like chill French dudes, and like bro, they don't want to fucking do all that shit if they don't want to, and I'm totally down with that.
Yeah.
But one day they might wake up and
hang
they
out
might
with their
want
like
to.
kids and shit. Like let them do that, bro.
The
They don't
amount
owe us nothing. Like
No, I mean the amount of restraint that the Europeans seem to have over their art, they know when to exit gracefully.
for sure.
Val, I'm telling you, you just got to know when to. I'm just kidding. This is a common thing.
Me, and just roll away slowly.
But on that note, I mean, I think that would be a good place to maybe for us to exit gracefully. Was there anything else you wanted to?
I mean, I was just going to say, one, Glenn, I love hearing you talk. I think you have such a great way of storytelling, not only with your photos and videos, but with your words.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
I feel like I was, taking notes and thinking about things to ask you. And I feel like I
Yeah.
accidentally started writing like rules that you have created in your life, which I think are really nice. And I was just like just being a fan through it all. I think that's something we've talked a lot about, and I appreciate that you've kept that true. I think that's something
Like
a lot
I'm
of
still I still go out to this stuff because I'm like super interested in like the evolution of cultures, like every 10 years and stuff. you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to Paris Fashion Week on Friday, but it's because cognizantly in my mind about 5 years ago, I thought that energy for like these clubs and festivals and stuff was going towards like waiting in line for a shirt by Virgil Abloh. It was like that like pent up crazy, like you can't name what this energy is, was that like initial like high fashion streetwear hype thing, right?
Yeah.
And then like I went to an after party where like, oh, Moody Man is playing, or like, all the best musicians are now playing like fashion after parties, So I like to gracefully like move on my own too to another scene.
Well, we didn't even get to cover a lot of the stuff in fashion and stuff that
Yeah.
we've done, but we might have to save that for another podcast.
Right.
But
It's-
it is interesting that you did make that connection, because now it seems like brands supersede every other figure in culture, because it wasn't that way. It was artists had all the power.
Right.
But now it really feels like brands are even bigger than artists in a weird way.
Bro, I'm going to see Pharrell do his first Louis Vuitton show. Like this is a merging
that'd be great.
of all the cultures. You know?
Yeah.
Like the reason why I fuck with it is because it makes it's like they led me into this world, but it was through like slowly bringing me in, because like you forget. Like I would go to France all the time to see like Ed Banger shit, romance shit.
Yeah.
But it's also the city of fashion, and like you forget that like they're doing fashion shows here. And then just one of those years, and I have to say, Virgil Abloh was a huge key in that, of merging. And he was like bringing friends in from the other world. He was like a DJ AM, like bringing in like the uncool kids with like the cool kids, the artist kids, the skater kids, the art fools, like whatever.
Well, figures like Virgil and
Rest in
Murray,
peace, bro. I fucking
rest in
miss that
peace.
guy.
And and Murakami, like blurring the lines between high and low art, basically just taking that away.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're saying is a good parallel, where it's like that's kind of like where a lot of that cool organic hype went, was towards that area.
The energy of that is like something else sometimes.
But now in that way it's been weaponized,
Oh yes.
And then
everything will be weaponized.
Well, let's not go into that side.
No, but I do think that, I mean, I'd love to hear even more stories. You've got so many stories.
Yeah.
We have to have maybe a part 2 with Glen.
No, I know. And that's what I mean. Like, I feel like the life lessons of Glen are, I mean, I'm sure you get the question all the time from kids who are like looking up to you in your career, being like, what's the advice you can give? And I honestly think that, like, I hope if people are listening to it and to this, hoping to find that they just genuinely see that you are someone who loved what he did from the very beginning and just kept that true, got like never fell into the thirst side of it. And also that you're just like, the imperfect, you made that like cool, know, and like it's okay to do that and bring that. Yeah.
In terms of like what to do, I'm much better at telling you what not to do. Like, because I'm just like, we've seen it all, we lived it all, but I would like, like one of my dreams is like to do like a guest lecture at a university of what not to do in this scene. Like just because like I want to help kids see that you can still do cool shit, just not the uncool way,
Yeah.
And like, I think gaining respect is way more important than gaining clicks and followers,
Yeah.
And like, bro, I don't got a lot of followers on my shit, but it's like, I know my followers though,
Well, I haven't given up on the youth. I think that they'll come around to it.
Oh, I ain't talking shit about the youth. No. I'm just saying.
But I agree, because that's not what is present.
Yeah.
That's not the primary language that's being communicated. But it is up to people like you and us to do that.
I mean, we're just a little bit older, and like we're just used to a different speed, And like, remember when you'd be like, "Oh, that dude was in this movie," and then you would just have this argument forever, right? Until like you saw the movie. But now it's like you just look it up in a second, and you get your answer. So everyone just wants stuff sooner because it's not anyone's fault. It's just like we're wired to expect the answer immediately, and that's just something that like I'm honestly really glad to have lived in the time that we lived in, because I appreciate all that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like we did not have the internet.
Yeah.
And it kind of made us who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we appreciate the internet now,
Yeah, but I also think that's, I mean, again, I keep going back to life lessons, I guess. That's just where my brain's at. But it's like for kids now, it's also like, look around what is going on around you and like find the people that are doing the cool shit next to you, instead of like, how do I work with Skrillex? Like who's going to be the next Skrillex that you probably like go to school with or like work with or something like that, and just ride with them.
I mean,
who knows what could happen?
Because like honestly, when you really think about it, wouldn't it be more fun to see something from the ground up than like
it is
jump on and like be another hanger on? Like,
yeah.
Don't you want to be someone in the clique in 10 years being like, sorry, bro, you're too thirsty? Like, don't you want to?
Don't you want to be Glen?
Yeah, I'm just saying, you got to enjoy the process, because once you get to the goal, everyone just talks about how fun it was getting there.
Exactly.
Like
it's still fun. I think it's still fun.
Absolutely.
And that's what's most important.
Yeah, and you guys are still making it fun.
Well, thank you for sharing all that with us. That was super fun. Had a great time. Yeah. Glen, all this noise. We'll see you soon.